Hey guys, it's Ghost57 coming at you from the power of YouTube through the internet itself. Okay guys, in today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to change a screen on a 2016 MacBook Pro 13-inch. Stay tuned guys and I'll show you how to do that. And here is the MacBook we're looking at today. So the serial number on the back, it's going to be the model number A1706, and this one is from 2016. This has the 4 USB-C ports and also the Touch ID bar over here. As you see when you turn it on, we really don't get much on the screen. On the screen all we're getting is this bar, so definitely something happened to it. Maybe the customer closed it on a pin. I'm not too sure what happened, but you can see right here all these are dead. So this one will need a screen replacement, and first thing we're going to do is just hold the power button until it turns off, normally about 10 to 15 seconds. You're going to make sure it's off before working on it. Sometimes if you just hold it for a little bit, it'll just put it in sleep mode. So it should be off now. So we're going to close it, and we're going to get our iFixit kit and take off the screws holding the back panel on. This is pretty speedy, should take you about 30 minutes. If it's your first time, maybe 45 minutes, but let's jump right into it, boys. So the first bit we're going to be using out of our iFixit kit is the P5, and this will take off all these on the back. Good thing about the iFixit kit is you do get your little screw organizer. We're going to be taking off a lot of screws, so I always like to put them in the order by which I take them off. And the ones in the back, these are actually a little smaller than the ones back here. And that's number 1. As you can see, the ones in the back, it's hard to mistake them. These are a little longer. Okay, so now that we've taken off those screws, you can already see this one's actually lifting up already. Sometimes you might need a little plastic tool to get in there and pop it up. There's little clips holding it in place right here. So we're just gonna unclip it. You should hear it pop. So both of them popped up. Be gentle, because this is aluminum. What happens is you'll bend this right here. So now that you have those popped up, what we're gonna do is pull it towards ourselves, because it's the way these MacBooks come off. Sometimes it's a little bit of tension there. Be kind of hard sometimes, especially if it's never been opened. So you can kind of see it moving a little bit in the back there. And there it is. This one is kind of difficult to take off, but just take your time with it. This one is very dusty, so it definitely hasn't been opened since it was made. You can see all that dust right there. Every time you open it up, it's always a good time to use your little duster to blow off any residue. So you probably won't open it up again until maybe a battery issue or something like that. Hopefully never again. But these are the little clips actually holding it in place. So we're going to put this to the side and we'll blow it off in a little bit. And we have this bad boy opened up now. You can see there is a lot of dust all over everything. The batteries look okay. There's a little bit of swelling, but the customer really only wanted the screen replaced. No issues with the battery on this one. All the stats come back normal for this battery. So maybe I'll let him know if he wants me to change the battery out as well. It's always a good common courtesy to do that. It's a little bloated, but just by touching it, just feels like the plastic is coming up, not the battery cell itself. So let's jump into the next steps. Okay, I have it open right now. Since I have it open, I'm gonna go ahead and dust it off with my fancy little duster. Okay, so let's go ahead and unplug the battery and start working on this computer. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to get to the battery. There's a little plastic cover that's sitting over the screw we need to unplug. So I'll put that to the side. This battery is held on with a little clip right here. So what you want to do is really make sure to unclip this properly. You don't want to break it, but you're just going to flip this back just a little bit. Don't use too much force, because if you break this, you'll have to pretty much redo this whole part on the logic board. So now that you have that clipped off, just going to pull this to the back, and your battery is almost unplugged. There's one thing holding your battery plugged in still. It's going to be this little, and this screw right here is actually going to be a different screw bit. This one is a Torx 5, a T5 for that one right there. And again, this is all for your battery. There we go. A little bit more. And this one's hard to mistake with any other one. You can see that different screw right there. We'll put that to the side. And we just want to make sure this is not touching, so we can lift this up a little bit. Like so. And now our battery is fully disconnected. So now we can start taking off all these other screws. Keep in mind, take your time with this process. There's quite a few screws here, and you can mix them up, and they're all kind of different sizes. So this is where your little tray comes in handy, like this. Okay, let's jump into the next step. Okay, so now we're going to take off these little holders right over here. These are going to be a T3 for those. These are very, very small. As you see, you can lose these really fast, so just make sure to put these in the right place. Okay, so I just lifted up and pulled out. Here are the little brackets, pretty much. Put those with those screws, and on the opposite side. Very small screws here. Just lift up and pull back. And now we just have some other, these are actually really big Torx heads, so we'll change out our bit for that as well. So these bigger ones underneath, actually holding your screen in place, is going to be a T8. And again, all this is in your trusty iFixit kit. These are going to be the biggest screws we remove right here. Again, these are very hard to mistake or misplace. These will be your biggest ones you're going to be removing today. Okay, 3 more. So the next thing we're going to take off is actually the Wi-Fi antenna, which is this really long thing right here. These right over here are going to be the smallest ones we're going to be taking off, which is going to be a P2 for all these over here. Almost there. You can see how tiny these screws are, almost like microscopic. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and take off all these right over here on the top portion. This is actually what's keeping your screen connected, are these cables over here. So where it's getting its power and its display from. So this one's going to be a Torx screw again. This is going to be your T3 for all these screws on top. Again, very small screws, so just make sure not to lose them. You can see how small these screws are. And the panel does come up here, like so. And that's the way they look. You just flip them around like so. I always like to put these in order as well. Don't want to mix anything up here. These are all the same size, but it's a good habit to put everything in order. Okay, now we're going to take off this part as well. These are all T3s. These are going to be a little bit of a different size from the ones we just took off. These are a little longer. Okay, so now we're just going to lift up on this tab right here. This is what's connecting the motherboard to the screen, vice versa. So just go ahead and keep that unclipped. And now we're going to take off these 4 screws right here. And we're almost done, guys. This one's a little bit of a bigger screw, so we'll get that done as well. This one looks like a T5. Yep, so these right here on top are going to be your T5. And then we're almost done with the process. It's a lot of screws. Again, like I've been saying throughout the whole video, as long as you take your time with it, everything should go perfectly fine. And this is saving you probably hundreds of dollars, if not thousands, for repairs. If it's under warranty, definitely take it to Apple, but they'll probably still charge you a nice penny for the screen, especially since it's like a damaged. I don't know how good their warranties are. Should be one more screw right here on top. You can already see the little board lifting off already. This is one step closer to taking everything off. And then we have a couple more screws, and then we'll pop this off and pop the new one on, and you are ready to rock and roll. So now we're going to go ahead and take off the Wi-Fi antenna. So this will be a pretty easy process, but just be careful, because nowadays a computer without Wi-Fi is pretty much a brick. So these are little connectors. You're just going to lift up on the tabs. Just be careful. Again, you don't want to cause any harm to your computer. Trying to fix it, not break it. Sometimes you can get your nail in there, gently pull up on it. It can be a little difficult sometimes, but I always like to use a soft plastic underneath that, not a metal, so you don't want to scratch your logic board up. And then we have one more screw right over here. This one's also a T5. And after we pull this off, we can actually take the whole Wi-Fi module out. It slips right underneath here. This is a little bit of a pain to put back in, but there's a little bit of a hole that Apple makes so you can actually slip those cables in to make it a little prettier. Okay, just like that, just wiggle it. You don't want to break this. And you just slide it right through here. And just take your time. And that is your Wi-Fi module. All these are going to be your antennas built in. Hence why these MacBooks have such good range. So I'll put that to the side. And we'll get ready to take that screen off now. Okay, so now we can go ahead and take the screen off. So what you want to do is just make sure to kind of open it fully, as far as you can get it. And then you can just kind of slide it out of here, like so. It can be kind of hard to do, just take your time. See, it just kind of comes out of these little notches. And that's the way you do it. It's easy as that, so just be careful. Sometimes you have to move it side to side. You're just trying to get it out of these little notches over here. And this is your old screen that was broken. The good thing is, if you do get a screen, it most of the time comes with every part you need. Sometimes you do need to reuse your little clips over here. The one I got off of eBay actually comes with those. I just wanted to include that in the steps, just in case if yours didn't have it. At least you'll be able to reuse those with that process. So we're going to grab the new screen and put it on. And here is that new screen. You try not to break it, but there it is. You can get them on a pretty good deal sometimes. This one does have like a little sticker residue. For some reason with the MacBooks and stickers, even after taking them off and using like Gooby Gone, it tends to discolor the aluminum, so then you're stuck with a weird, odd sticker design. But at least the screen works. Sometimes you'll be able to find these pretty cheap. I was able to get this one for $100. Which is a lot better than $300, $400. So this one is refurbished and tested. Besides a little sticker on the back, it should work pretty nicely. So that's all I do is I look on eBay to try to see what deal I can get depending on the customer I'm working with. Sometimes they want to spend a little extra money and get a brand new screen, but those are pretty expensive. Normally I don't find those under $300. So $100 fix. Go ahead and prop this on now. Again, just take your time, put it on. You're going to try to fit these little bezels into this part of the back of the computer here. This one does have a little bit of damage right here, but it's a working screen, so let's go ahead and put this bad boy on. Also, when you put this on, make sure your cables, I like to put them this way. You don't want to put these on wrong either. Just make sure they're all out of the way when you're trying to put this back on. Just take your time. So I always like to go on one side first, like so, and then make sure my cables are all in here, because you don't want to screw everything in and then realize your cables are not in. That's never fun. And that should be good there. So first thing I'm going to do is put those bigger screws in. These were going to be the biggest ones we had, hard to mistake them, just so I can start working on putting all this back together. So we're going to be using the bigger Torx screw. This one is the T8. So I like to keep it at this angle, grab a couple of those big screws, just so I can start working on it. Put some screws in there. Make sure that's perfectly aligned. There we go. I like to do one per side just to make sure it's even. And I'm also keeping an eye on these cables right there. Okay. Sure that's aligned. Okay, now that I have that there, I can finish screwing all those in. And just keep an eye on these cables, guys. Make sure you see them all here, because it will be a pain if they're not. Then you have to redo the whole process, and that's never fun. This should be about a 30-minute process, but sometimes if you strip a screw or something like that, it can turn into like an hour project. Sometimes a 2-hour project if you break apart, who knows. So always just take your time with it, guys. Okay, so now we can just close it nice and gently. What I always like to do is make sure there's nothing on the other side. I've done that before where there's like a screwdriver or a bit on the other side and I cracked the new screen, and then I'm out of a bunch of money. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and start putting this all back together. Okay, so this part is pretty important. If you do this wrong, you will have to redo the whole process, because then your cable is going to be exposed. So the next thing we want to do is put back on our Wi-Fi antenna. So you want to make sure this is not underneath here. That will not be good. So you want to make sure your cables are going to be on this side, like so, and then you're going to put your Wi-Fi antenna over that. One trick is there's a little tiny, you can see it right there, little tiny hole where these wires go through. So I always like to kind of fit those in there. And it's a little hole, so you kind of have to wiggle and jiggle to get all these little Wi-Fi antennas back in there. Just take your time with it. This process can be a little tedious right there. Okay, they're going through. And then I can see them on this side. So sometimes it's like a little team effort here. I might want to bring that screwdriver in there to lift that up. Just a little bit. There we go. Okay, this one's coming up a little bit. Come on. Here's the other one. See, it's kind of feeding it through there. Like so. So I have one left. One little straggler. Stuck back there. This can be a little tedious, but I see it now. Again, never use too much force. You don't want to break anything. It's almost there. Now you want to come out. Come on. There it is. Like so. And that little guy will sit right on top. Now we can go ahead and put that back down. So what I like to do is put all these little screws in first and then work around this. So remember, this one was our P2, our pendulum screw, the really small one. So this is going to be our P2 right there. We're going to put all these little small screws back in. And I would say I've been using this iFixit kit probably for 4 years now. It really pays for itself. You got everything you need to work on any kind of small electronics and laptops. From Windows to Mac, you got all the right bits, and it won't strip your little screws out. Makes the job a lot easier to have the right tool. It is a little bit expensive, but it just grabs these screws so easy. Sometimes the magnet's a little too good, it'll grab 2 screws at once. But look at that, you don't have the risk of like losing a screw, making your life a living nightmare. Sometimes you need that one screw to finish the job, but your screwdriver is not an iFixit one, and you lose a little screw bit. Then you have to order the screw and wait, have your clients wait on you. This is not good. Clients always want their computers back, most of the time, same day. But waiting on parts can be an issue too, especially if you're getting off of eBay. You know, a lot of eBay sellers don't have same-day shipping. Some takes like 2 weeks, especially if it's coming from China. You never know. Okay, working around the other end. And I had a couple of these screws on other laptops I worked on that actually, using a cheaper screwdriver, stripped them, and then I had to use a drill gun to drill a hole so I can take off the Wi-Fi antenna. That was a nightmare. But it all comes with experience. The more you do it, the better you get. And sometimes the slower you are, it's not really the bad thing. You tend to do better if you're not stressed and rushing through a project. You just take your time and never use like full-on Hulk strength. Just take your time, screw these little guys in there. Okay, so now that we got that on, we're gonna go ahead and put our little Wi-Fi guy back on there. So these just clip in place. I'm gonna go ahead and zoom in so you can see that. They're just like little button clips. And if you don't put this on, you won't have Wi-Fi. And these don't have an Ethernet port, so yeah, just make sure to put these on properly. You'll feel like a little bit of a clip, like a button, once you put these back on. Okay. And the cool thing is, they all go in a certain hole, and with their size, you can only put them in the right hole, which is nice. Hard to go wrong with Apple when putting things back in, which is nice. It's a little bit of a clicking noise there. And we'll put this one, the screw back over there. This was a T3. And most of the rest on top are T3, which is nice. So you can follow this order, so you don't have to keep switching out your screw bit. Okay, there we go. And now what we're gonna do is just put our little panel back on there. As you notice, you want to make sure this is in the right place to clip back on. You don't want to screw over it and then have a nightmare. Not really a nightmare because you just have to re-screw them, but now we're going to put those bigger screws back in, and then all these are the T5s. These are the little bit of a bigger screw here. And these are the 4 big screws that are T5s. They'll go back right over here. Those are our 4 screws. And now we're just going to put this back in place. This goes a certain way. You can kind of see it has a spring in there. So I'm going to push it down. And this one is not going to be a T3. Let's see. Actually, it still is a T3. And these are the longer ones. So now you just kind of spring that back in place. And the good thing about ours already came with the brackets to hold this in place. So this is going to save us a little bit of time. But I like to kind of perform the whole step just in case you don't have that luxury. Some eBay shippers will ship it without. Some will be nice and ship it with this bracket. Looks like these people were nice and shipped it with it. Okay, same thing, just gonna put that back where it needs to go, like so. So this one is only missing one bracket, which is going to be this guy right here. But you want to make sure that it clips into place, like so. Then we have our little bracket that goes over that. Right there. And this one, I think, is also a T3. Let's see. Yep, that's also a T3. So that's good. The last couple of them are all the same. This one's important because it's keeping that display connector in place. So you don't want to forget this one. The screws are so small. A lot of the Windows computers, the Dells and stuff like that, HP, screws are a little bit bigger, but the newer ones are pretty much like MacBooks now. A lot of stuff is soldered to the motherboard as well. So, there we go. And we're almost there, so I was able to find a screw for this one. I think this one just missed it, or fell out, but I did have an extra one there. So now we're just going to put our little screen bezel things back on. They go in a certain order, so this one might go here. Let's see. These are different. There we go, just like that. Fits right into place. This one was a T2 as well. Right there on top. This one is going to be for the back of the laptop to go back in there, so you don't want to lose that. Almost there, guys. Okay, now we're just going to work with our little power cable. So now we can push this back down. This was going to be that large circular one, still a T3, and screw that back on there. Okay, and this one right here is going to go back into this little power hole. I still have the little clip flipped up. And you're just gonna sneak it, kind of guide it back in that little slot. Fits right underneath there. And this is what's gonna give us power, so I guess this would be the most important part. So put this little guy back on. Okay, it's almost there. Sometimes you can kind of guide it. Make sure it all levels up, like so. All these little bronze teeth are in the right place, and you're just going to gently push this down, and we're good to go. This is in the up position, like so, and this is the down position. And just kind of be careful, just like that. So we're good to go there. Now we'll grab that little plastic thingy, and if it's on it, might as well put it back on. So you can see which way they go, the way everything looks here. See, there's a little circle for that screw hole. Circle for that one. Kind of press everything down. There it goes. Sometimes that adhesive gets weak over time, so you might have to press on it a little bit more. And you're golden there. Awesome. So now we're going to go ahead and put the back panel back on. I might add a little bit of tape there because this is still sticking up a little bit. Okay, so I just added a little bit of tape to keep that in place. Now we're going to put this back on. Keep in mind I already kind of cleaned it off. I might wipe this down a little bit more, actually. Even blowing it off sometimes doesn't work, so I'm just going to use a little rag there. So we're going to see these little clips right here and right there. Just going to try to put it in the right place so we can grab a hold of it. Should be right there. You can hear it. So it's still a little bit raised up. This part can be tricky as well. You really want to make sure they're even on both sides. That side's in, come back to this side. There we go. Back to that side. Now you can feel that it's clipped in, all the angles are even. And now we'll just start screwing these last ones in. And the last one is going to be with our P5, Pendelope 5 screw. Just the way we took it off, the longer screws go right here in the back. And cross your fingers, guys. Hopefully the screen I got off of eBay works. It says it was a grade B because of that sticker. Hopefully it works. Sometimes you do all this work. It's the only bad part about buying a used off of eBay. Sometimes you don't actually know if it'll work. And after you put in an hour of work, it doesn't work, you have to buy another one. eBay does protect the buyer. You get to return it, but then you have to wait, you know, a couple more days, and it turns into a hassle, especially if the buyer or the customer is waiting for the product back. Who likes to wait on a computer for a longer period of time, and then you lost, you know, 2-3 hours taking it off and putting it back on. Okay, everything looks good. Moment of truth, we're gonna flip it around, turn it on, and see if it works. And then if it does, you are golden. Let's flip this bad boy around. Okay, moment of truth. We're opening it together. I'm a little worried, a little scared. Let's see what happens. And there it is. That's always the scariest part. So when you turn it on, if it works or not. But there you go, guys. It's like that. It normally takes about 30 to 45 minutes. If you take your time, about an hour. But if you got any usefulness out of this video, please hit the thumbs up. And if you like what you saw, subscribe so you can see me in the next video. Anyways, guys, Ghost57 out. You'll have a great one. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye for now.